What if I told you that one of the most admired leaders in world history had no proper education, failed in almost everything, and yet changed the future of an entire nation? Abraham Lincoln was born on February 12, 1809, in a one-room log cabin in the forests of Kentucky, USA. His parents were poor farmers, and young Abe had to work from the age of 7 splitting logs, planting crops, and doing manual labor. Formal schooling, less than 1 year in total. His classroom was the woods, and his teacher books he borrowed and read under candlelight. Lincoln became a owner of a general store in New Salem, Illinois, around 1832. He and his partner, William F. Berry, bought the store on credit, meaning they didn't have the money up front. William Berry died in 1835, likely due to alcohol-related illness at a young age. His drinking habits had already been impacting the business. When Berry died, Lincoln was left with the entire business debt, which totaled around $1,000, a massive sum in the 1830s. And now Lincoln has to pay this. It took nearly a decade. He called it his national debt and worked tirelessly doing various jobs to clear it. As a postmaster, surveyor, and later lawyer. In 1832, at age 23, Lincoln ran for the Illinois General Assembly as a member of the Whig Party. He was relatively unknown and lacked the wealth, connections, and formal education of his competitors. Though he was popular locally, especially in New Salem, statewide, he received only around 277 votes, placing 8th out of 13 candidates. This was his first political defeat, but he didn't give up. Ann Rutledge was the daughter of the tavern owner, where Lincoln lodged in New Salem. Historians believe she was Lincoln's first great love, and their relationship was close, and possibly even engaged. In 1835, Anne fell ill, most likely from typhoid fever, and died at the age of 22. Lincoln was devastated. According to several friends and letters from the time, he wept openly and reportedly told a friend, "I can never be reconciled to have the snow, rain, and storms beat upon her grave." After Anne's death, Lincoln withdrew from society. He began having intense bouts of sadness, insomnia, and thoughts of death. Friends even removed sharp objects from his room, fearing for his safety. Though he recovered with time and support, Lincoln battled depression throughout his life, especially during personal and political crises. They also highlight his resilience despite personal loss and mental health struggles. He continued to grow, serve, and lead. His ability to empathize with others' suffering was likely shaped by this period of pain. Lincoln was elected at age 37 as a Whig Party candidate to the U.S. House of Representatives from Illinois' 7th District. This was his only term in Congress, serving from 1847 to 1849. A conflict between the U.S. and Mexico, primarily over the U.S. annexation of Texas and disputed territory near the Rio Grande. Many Americans supported the war, leaving in manifest destiny the idea that the U.S. was destined to expand westward to the Pacific. But critics argued it was a land grab, especially to expand slave territories in the South. Lincoln didn't support Mexico, but he believed the war was launched under false pretenses and was being used to expand slavery. By opposing the war, Lincoln was seen by many as un-American or even disloyal to the troops. Political backlash at home was swift. Newspapers criticized him, and voters turned against him. For years after that, he stepped away from politics, focusing on his law practice, but he couldn't stay silent on the issue of slavery. In 1858, he faced Stephen Douglas in a series of public debates on slavery, boldly declaring, "A house divided against itself cannot stand." Though he lost that Senate race, the debates made him famous across the country. 2 years later, he was elected the 16th President of the United States. But the nation was already breaking. 11 southern states seceded. The Civil War began. Lincoln was not just fighting a war, he was fighting for the soul of America, and he believed the nation could not survive half free and half enslaved. In 1863, he signed the Emancipation Proclamation, which declared that slaves in the Confederate States were now free. It was a bold move, one that turned the war into a battle for human freedom. Later that year, he delivered the Gettysburg Address, just 272 words that became one of the most powerful speeches in history. In 1865, the North won the war. Lincoln had preserved the Union. But just 5 days later, he was shot by an actor named John Wilkes Booth. He died the next morning. America mourned deeply, as if it had lost a father. Did you know Lincoln never had a middle name? Or that he was a licensed bartender at one point in his life? He's the only U.S. president to hold a patent for a device to lift boats over sandbars. He also had a high-pitched voice, not the deep booming one you'd expect from his statues. He loved storytelling, often cracked jokes, and even had a cat named Tabby who was once fed at the White House dinner table. Inspiration and final message. Abraham Lincoln's life proves that greatness is not reserved for the privileged. It's earned through character, conviction, and courage. He dared to dream not just for himself, but for a better world, and so can you. This was the story of Abraham Lincoln. Which part touched you the most? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to Dare to Dream.